Welcome you to Focus on Liberia. Good evening, wherever you are. Good afternoon. If you are in the afternoon hours, this is Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony CA, co-hosting with my partner Dennis Jar, and we dearly want to welcome you to our Wednesday special. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to the show. In this edition of our show, we are looking at the autopsy report concerning the death of the four auditors. And we are also looking at the police report that came along with the autopsy report as was presented by the Attorney General of the Republic of Liberia, Councillor Frank Musa Dean. We have two security professionals in the house here as our guests, and they will be looking at the report and talking about the autopsy and the police report professionally based on their expertise in the area. So this is the place to be this evening. Dennis Jar, I'm all set. Let's get this started.
We want to welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. As Anthony said, we're going to be looking or taking a deeper look at the police and autopsy reports of the four auditors who died in Monrovia in just the span of 8 days. Our guest, we have our regular senior analyst of FOL, but tonight he's going to be here in his capacity as a former CID. Before the war, he was Captain Wilmot Cooney. Captain, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. But my last assignment was director, so at least you can welcome me in that capacity.
Definitely. Okay, so just briefly, Mr. Cooney, he rose to the rank of captain in the police. Still before the war, he headed the CID. He was CID commander for Zone 3, that's in Congo Town. Maybe it's still Congo Town. And also he became instructor at the police academy. I mean, he did all that. And he also rose after the war now. He was deputy director of NSA. That's the highest rank he held before coming here to the United States. So deputy director, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. We also have a former managing director of the Howard Security System, former deputy director general for administration, GSA, former graduate of former detective and patrolman of LNP, and he became deputy director of police for CID Affairs, Republic of Liberia, Mr. Charles King. They call him Coach King. Coach, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charles. Thank you so much.
So right now we're going to be discussing. We want you to tune in, set your dial right here at Focus on Liberia, where we're going to have these professionals discuss the police report and the autopsy report as we heard it on video from the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Frank Musa Dean. So let's get the ball rolling. We want to say please or share the show. Let's ask our two professionals in their closing remarks. What was your first reaction when you listened to that 30 to 35-minute video of the police report? Let me start with Mr. Cooney.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you very much. Before I answer that question, please just give me a few minutes. Let me, in a very special way, recognize Director King. Director King, I'm actually excited to be on this show with you because coming up as a young police officer, you, among many others, were the role models that we follow. When it comes to the area of law enforcement and security operations, I think most Liberians will agree with me that you are one of the pioneers of law enforcement in Liberia, and I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for the leadership and for the expertise you provided our country over the years. It is people like you that will follow when we're very young. when you were deputy director of CID, I was a field agent, so I can understand why you will not know me, but I know you very well. So I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you.
I listened to the presentation by the Justice Minister, and I've also been following developments regarding these unfortunate murders of Liberians. The director here will agree with me. One of the basic when you're conducting an investigation, you try to answer what we refer to as the 5 W's and the 1 H. Basically, we want to know what happened. We want to know when it happened, where it happened, and all of these things, how it happened. It is the totality of the explanations that to those questions that give confidence to the investigative process. So my initial reaction listening to the Justice Minister, basically he was providing a narration of activities and events that didn't provide an answer to some of these critical questions. We know the autopsy report is there. That's not the issue. The autopsy report will give the cause of death. But I think many Liberians that are concerned about these murders, they want to know what happened, why did it happen, how did it happen. I want to believe it is answers to these critical questions that will first of all provide a resolution to the crimes, and then give our people some level of confidence, as to their own security concerns. So I think the report it fell a little bit short of some of those questions. And I'm hoping that now that we know the cause of death as provided by the Justice Minister, my hope is that the investigative authorities, they will go down to provide some of these answers.
Thank you.
Because these are young professional Liberians that we're talking about. And as we've already indicated on the show, the death of any one Liberian is sufficient to create concern. But it's even more concerning if Liberians of a particular category are the victims of crime. So that's my initial assessment.
Thank you. That's the voice of Mr. Wilmot Coney, former Deputy Director of the NSA. Let me go to Deputy Director King for his initial reaction listening to the Justice Minister reading the report live on TV.
This is when I come in, correct?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I would like to thank for the recognition for Deputy Director Coney. I'm a product, and I will always say so. I'm a product of professionals like Lieutenant James Fukpa, Peter Y. Wilson at the Police Academy, Gabriel Bolakaju, James T. White, and the other members there who trained me very well at the Police Academy when I first started my career. I'm far from being a pioneer. Whatever success I have, it's as a result of those people at the Police Academy who trained me. And so I want to give commendation to them as well. When I listened to the Minister of Justice report, if this had happened at the time when I was Deputy Director of Police, the Minister of Justice would just give a brief summary, and I would have to speak on behalf of the investigation. Because I know, as my team of officers would go out there and investigate, I know how and what to say and what type of information to pass over to the public if the case was still being investigated. Again, the autopsy report, from what I heard and read and heard from the Minister of Justice, was just that. It tells how a person died, what caused a person's death. But as the Deputy Director of the NSA former just mentioned, it does not complete an investigation. I heard lots of questions that needed to be answered. And as a trained law enforcement officer, I cannot sit down and accept something that's incomplete. Now you're asking me my professional opinion. It's incomplete. There's questions that has to be answered. I won't sit here and say, yes, everything was good just to please unprofessionals, non-professionals. I can't do that. Now, if I had heard from the director of the CID who headed the investigation, or should have headed the investigation, I guess I'm sure he did, of the cases, that's what I would like to hear from. So it really told me nothing, really, from a professional point of view. The investigators would be talking with the pathologists during his particular inspection of the bodies to look for different marks and other type of identifying trace evidence, so to speak, that they both would, focus upon to give the investigators some additional evidence to work with. But I didn't hear anything like that. And I'm not even talking about the account of who discovered who, when, and the private security company that was involved, or the private security officer that was involved. And there's so many questions left unanswered. And I'm not going to just sit here and say, well, yes, it was all complete. No. I'm an investigator. I have to ask certain questions. Those 5 W's and 1 H that former Deputy Director Kone quoted is essential. Then you have the intent, the motive, and the opportunity of these crimes. Those factors, that aspect factors into any investigation. That's all I have to say for now, unless you go further.
Thank you, Mr. CA. But before I bring in Mr. CA, my next question is this, and you kind of touch on that a little bit. Is it normal to have a report that way, that you have the autopsy and the police investigative report combined, and then is presented by the justice minister? I would think that the pathologist will do the autopsy portion of it, the CID or the police will do their part, and probably the justice minister provide a summary or some introduction. What do you think, Coach?
Well, I would say how the administration and how the image and the beginning of the organization, how the director of police and the deputy director of police assert themselves and make it known who is in charge of the investigation and what type of information should or should not be released. So ideally, perhaps each minister of justice would have their own method of getting this information out, but ideally, it should be a general introduction. I would hope to see a general introduction by the Minister of Justice, and then the Director of Police comes in and introduce the Director of CID and let the CID give his portion of the report. Now, as for the pathologists, they have their own protocol, and I don't want to step into that particular area. But with regards to law enforcement, I'm the one, as head of the CID investigating, I must give my opinion to my report to the public, because I know what is happening and I know how to interpret and what I have to say to the public and be there to answer their questions. So no, as chief of CID, I represent my investigative team, nobody else. All the other positions that may come in are ceremonial. I'm responsible for the conduct and affairs of my officers. So I take that role.
Mr. Cooney, if you want to chime in, but on top of that, many complained that the report was delayed. The justice minister said because they wanted to be thorough. So on top of whether it's normal to do it that way, do you think that the report was delayed? Was it timely, or is it just okay?
Well, before I comment on the timeliness of the report, I just want to reinforce what Director King said. You see, look, over the period, there has been this gradual erosion of professional lines within law enforcement in our country. We know that there is a political environment in which the government and law enforcement function, but as professionals, it is our responsibility to ensure that these kind of matters are kept away from the political sphere. That will bring everything we bring to it will be nothing short of professionalism. So I agree. I really don't see the need for the justice minister coming out to even be the one reading out the report. The role of the justice minister in the mix of things is the prosecution of cases. Now we are talking about investigation. So like Director King said, we needed to see the investigators, those who are doing the actual investigation, to give us the progress of the investigation, to tell us where they are, what steps they need to take for questions that, that may not be resolved at this point. But this tendency of putting everything to politicians is something that I think that need to be resolved in Liberia. You find, just to give an example, I'm still trying to understand what will make the director of police leave the executive offices of the Liberian National Police to enforce a ban in a church if it is not politicization of his function. There are layers and layers of chain of command below the director of police that can easily implement that order. So why would the director of police leave his offices and be the one to be like the officer on the field to implement the order? So these things, it lend a credence to the criticism that law enforcement is operating politically, and we sometimes have to take the politics out. So to take the politics out, we needed professional investigators to come out to give the public the briefing of their investigation, issues that they've uncovered, issues that yet to be uncovered, and give confidence to the process. My expectation is that if the justice minister is coming out to be part of the briefing, he's coming out to maybe inform the Liberian people of indictments and plan of prosecution. So if that was not the role, if that was not the information he was conveying, then he being the lead person to communicate that information was totally irrelevant to me. With regard to the timing of the report, yeah, timing may be of concern, but I'm much more concerned with the accuracy of the report. Is the report accurate? Is the report answering all of the basic questions that are on the minds of citizens, that are on the minds of the relatives of the deceased? I mean, it is that area that I'm concerned with. So yeah, even if the report is delayed, but what has the report uncovered in the investigative process? I think this is much more important than saying, well, let's rush the report and let's give it out as quick as possible. I'm more concerned about the accuracy of the report. Can this report be used as a basis for prosecution to hold the doers of this act accountable? Because that's the concern people have.
Yeah.
You have Liberians that have died, and people just don't want a situation where the perpetrators of these gruesome acts will go scot-free. So that's I think that's where the emphasis should be.
Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. Asuni Sie. This guy followed these issues like white on rice. Mr. Sie.
And thank you, Dennis. And we can thank those who are following. And I want to remind you, we are talking about both the autopsy and police report that were presented to the Liberian people on the 25th of November, almost two months after the death of the auditors. And Mr. Cooney, let me go to Mr. King. My question here is, do you see any inconsistency or any contradiction between the two reports, the autopsy report and the police report? Any contradiction or any inconsistency that you see there?
What I only read or heard from the report that was made. I would like to find out what type of pictures were taken on, I think it's the gentleman who had the accident.
Fambutu.
When I was trying to get an understanding of the type of injury that was sustained on the body of that man, if he ran off the road, as it is reported, and ran in and went into the garage, quote unquote, of someone's house, and the image of what I saw on some earlier photos, there were gashes on his head that was not consistent with no accident, from what I can see and what I heard. Mm-hmm. So I raised a question about what happened, who took the pictures of the vehicle and its final position, and also what speed the vehicle was going at the time of impact. All those things can be determined by proper investigation and proper photography. Now, the image that I saw of earlier on was not consistent with what I heard in the report. Now, whether the image was correct that I saw or not, but still, you asked me a question, and I'm saying it was not consistent with the injuries I saw of the image of this gentleman in the car. His face was chopped up pretty badly. And what causes something like that? Again, I may be completely wrong, and I stand to be corrected with regards to the image. But that I say, and then there's some other aspects about the report concerning the two victims in the vehicle on Broad Street, and the pathologist report. It said carbon, I think it was something about some carbon monoxide.
Yeah, Mr. Kim, we will get to that. Let's conclude. Let's look at the Fambutu case first, and let's hear from the Attorney General. He has something to say. We'll roll that clip quickly. Let me roll it here.
The death of George. The deceased, George Fambutu, was observed driving a maroon Nissan Frontier pickup bearing license plate number A60952 on Sunday, October 4, 2020, on excessive speed in the direction of the 72nd community. At about 5:30 p.m., George Fambutu ran into a speed breaker in the rolling dual curve, lost control of his vehicle, struck a pedestrian, and landed in the garage of Dr. Joseph T.K. Workers' private residence, about 200 feet from the road. He sustained injuries and was rushed to the John F. Kennedy Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Consistent with Volume 1, Title 2, Chapter 7 of our Civil Procedure Law, the coroner of Montserrat County, having declared the death suspicious, the Ministry of Justice ordered that post-mortem examination, autopsy, be performed on the remains. Relevant autopsy findings injuries to the head, chest, and abdomen. No metallic density foreign body. Cause of death: right frontal cerebral contusion and disruption of brain with hemorrhages.
All right, folks, you're just listening to the Attorney General of the Republic of Liberia reading the police report concerning the death of Fambutu, that's George Fambutu. And he also said that the accident that was reported was being confirmed by the autopsy report as the cause of death. And many people still don't believe this story. And to your point, Mr. King, that the images that you saw, yeah, you wanted to see more images. And looking at those images and the explanation of the accident, then you will be able to compare whether there can be some truth to that. It's unfortunate that there's not much information in the open space. So it is kind of difficult to tell. The only information we have is what that is coming from the government or the police. And the police has been very tight-lipped on this for a long time. So it's like we're not going to get all the answers we need, because clearly the autopsy and this report, I'm not sure if it put this thing to rest. What do you think?
Well, again, one has to look at the body, look at the head injuries to find out if it is consistent with such an accident. As I said, the image I saw, it may have been a different person, but that image I saw, I don't see how an injury like that could have taken place in such clear cut with no other damage to the face and no other area of the body. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it unless what I saw in the paper earlier of a man's face that is purported to be of the gentleman in the car. It's totally in conflict. I can't see it.
And if I may come in, then Mr. Cooney, let me bring you in here. My frustration with this Fambutu story is that this man had an accident as being reported, or as the police is telling us, in a community where you have so many people living. I don't know why. I've been searching. I have not come across a story done by any newspaper taking or getting the accounts of residents in the area where the accident happened to verify this story. Because there are other accounts in some quarters that no, it was not an accident, and at all, this man was being chased. So we don't know what to believe. There has not been any story being carried by any newspaper, interviewing or getting words from the residents in the area that the accident happened. So the only thing we can go with that is in writing is what the police gave us. So this case might be very difficult to find if at all there was any foul play, isn't it?
Yeah, but you see, and this is why I think the police faces two challenges here, in my opinion. The most important challenge they face is to investigate these crimes and to bring the perpetrators to justice, to give the families of the victims closure, to give the families of the victims some sense of justice and fairness. The other challenge the police is facing is that our country, for whatever reason, is polarized at this point. So that you have a sector of the population that are already imputing political motives to these murders. So I think that creates also another responsibility on the police to ensure that these investigations are done in the utmost professional manner that will answer all of these questions that we are asking. And in that regard, even the choice of words matters. Mm-hmm. The way we speak, the way we present report to the public matters. I listened to the recording that you play from the Justice Minister, and one of the things I heard that that Mr. Vambutu was observed speeding. Yeah. The question is, who observed him? You see, these are the kind of little questions that can come up. Who observed the man speeding? You see, I think in addition to finding out the culprits of these acts, the police also has a responsibility to the public to conduct an investigation that will assure the public that these crimes were not politically motivated crimes, as some members of the public seem to suggest. And if the police present their investigation in these bits and pieces of information that raises more questions than answers, then it lends credence to some of these beliefs that people have.
So before you land, because on the Judge Fambutu case, sometimes to me, listening to that did not appear as a police report to me. It appeared like a newspaper story. What would an actual police report in the Fambutu case look like? What would be the questions answered? What are the things the police investigation should be looking for? You mentioned one already, observed speeding.
Yeah, well, you will analyze the road condition. You will analyze the speed at which the driver was driving, and then the other thing that we touched on here are the injuries consistent with that of a vehicular accident, and if those injuries that have been placed in the public domain, if the images that have been placed in the public domain are different from the actual images of the victim, the public need to know. Because like we all hear, that is the only images that we've seen. Right. And those images, you cannot just look at those images and conclude that they are the result of vehicular accident. So, and this is a responsibility I'm talking about. The law enforcement need to find out the facts. At the same time, by doing so, they will dispel whatever rumors or whatever other information out there that may not be correct. But if you come and tell us the public already has in their mind the image of this disease, and if you just come and tell us, oh yeah, the man died from accident, and then somebody says, oh, but the pictures I saw don't look like an accident victim. And if that the pictures you're talking about, then you need to tell us, yes, it is the pictures, but these are the reasons why the pictures look the way they look. And then we will make our assessment.
And Mr. King, when I come in your line of work, is there any possibility for killers to stage an accident in a manner that we're talking about? I'm not saying that is the possibility here, but I'm just asking, is there any possibility for a murderer to kill somebody and make it appear as though it's an accident so that that person cannot be caught as the doer of the act? Has there been any time whatsoever, or is this possible at all?
Oh, yes, it is possible.
And then how do you detect that?
It is possible for it to be done. Mm-hmm. And how you could find out, it depends on the investigative method used for the accident scene. As I said, there are ways and means. For example, let me give you a simple example. When a car headlight is on and it strikes an object and brakes, there's certain condensation of some sort, and specialists can tell me that goes on the elements, on the filaments within the light. If it's on at the time of impact, some oxygen, some chemical reaction that takes place. That's not my specialty, but as an investigator, I know that happens. If the headlight is off while it strikes something, nothing gets on to the elements within, or the filaments within that area of where the light is. Again, that's not my era, and technicians can best determine that. So this is what you do when you go to the accident scene. Like that's if it was in the evening time, I'm presuming. Now you will look at the condition of the lights. You will look at you will of course take a picture of the location. You will look at the type of damages done to the vehicle, and then you will investigate and look at the whole layout of the car, of the individual themselves, and what's on them. Are they smelling of alcohol? Did they have pills somewhere in the vehicle? Was there another person in the vehicle with them that was fighting at the time? Who knows? But it can be staged to look as though something took place and the person who is in the vehicle was part and parcel of that particular accident scene. It can be taken, it can be done. But the investigators now can investigate properly all of these different angles. You can look at the speedometer to determine where it ended. Where was it at the time of impact? All of this is important, whether the person's shoes was on the brakes at the time or whether it was on the accelerator at the time of impact. So all of these things take place. So, but it's left with the investigators who knows what to look for. It depends on their training. It depends on taking that vehicle and have it properly analyzed or inspected by a proper mechanic.
Wow.
With the presence of a police officer and investigator for him to see if anything was defective on the vehicle, the tires, the road condition, as Deputy Director Cooney mentioned. You see, and the reason I must add is why, he's a police officer. He's trained in law enforcement, which is different from intelligence. That's why he comes back to the road condition. That's our field. To investigate those things. Was there sand on the road at the time? And as you say, where are the other witnesses? Who saw it? Where's the man whose house this vehicle ran into? What is he saying? When did he build a house? When did he build a garage? Where was he at the time? How many people came out at the time of that incident? No one else was there? And then what happened with the person who he hit? I didn't even know. No comment was made about the person who he struck a pedestrian, right?
Right.
So where's that person?
Except for the house. And I'm not sure if the name of the person whose house was hit got mentioned. I've been searching all over and I wanted to see accounts from residents in the area where he had the accident. I wanted to see an interview conducted with the person whose house his car hit. And what would the person say? What would residents there say? People who gathered during the accident. I mean, that information is missing. Those information could be key in understanding whether there was an actual accident or whether it even happened at all.
Quite correct.
But Mr. C.A., we can't put all this on the police, though. What are the newspaper people saying? I was even looking for whether there is an insurance company, whether they send the adjuster, maybe I'm thinking too American, but whether there was an adjuster who went and look at the car and say, hey, this is the damage and this is how much it costs. But let's look at the reportage of these crimes, right, from our newspapers, from our radio and all the different journalists in Monrovia. What are they saying? Or is it should be all the police? Mr. Cooney, you were there in Monrovia, you saw crimes taking place. Would the newspapers not have responsibilities as well?
Well, we can't comment on the newspaper responsibilities because they will write wherever they want to write, But we're talking about law enforcement responsibility here because that is key. A crime has been committed in the community. Members of the community are concerned about the crime. It is the duty of law enforcement to provide the appropriate answers to their concerns. And, as we all agree here, Liberia, you don't pay witnesses. Even when you come to fighting, there are people who congregate around the people there to see them fighting, So And we are raising all these questions not to dismiss that maybe it was not an accident. It could very well be an accident. Nobody knows. But again, I'll go back to the two challenges that law enforcement is facing with these crimes. There is a duty and obligation that they have to undertake because they are law enforcement. They have to provide the answers and the solutions to this crime. And there is also a perception in some quarters that these crimes are politically motivated. And so I think, in fact, that imposes a greater responsibility on law enforcement to make sure that information that is released on these things, the result of the investigation is impartial. It meets all of the professional hallmark. And so this is why it is important that some of these questions need to be answered. You know, I know the road they're talking about. I've driven on that road.
Yeah, Mr. Kunle, may I jump in here? And I mean, I don't want to dismiss the political undertone that, you know, these things tend to have, given that the country is polarized. But what I'm saying is that, and where maybe you may agree with me, the police has a responsibility to investigate. There was an accident reported. Now, it took almost 2 months. We did not get any preliminary report, to the best of my knowledge, from the police, except that the police chief, I mean, the spokesman of the police just came out and said, oh, the man had an accident. He was speeding and he ran into a house. And that was like a news conference that the police were giving, oh, this is what happened. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know whether that constitutes the actual police report that is needed to get to the bottom of this thing as to whether a crime happened, or even if it was not a crime, there was actually an accident. I mean, will you say just by the police woman saying, oh, this is what happened, I mean, it's good enough?
No, it's certainly not good enough. As I told you, there are more questions that need to be answered, so it's not good enough. Okay. It's not good enough. But, you know, at the same time, too, I mean, while it is true that we are putting all of these responsibilities on the shoulders of the police department, we also have to take into account, other factors that may sometimes influence police operations in Liberia. I mean, factors like training, factors like logistics, all of these. I mean, some of these issues are long-standing issues that law enforcement has faced in Liberia. Mm-hmm. So even if you're talking about investigation, we're talking about, you know, what's the quality of investigators you have? What are the investigative programs, the training that people undergo? I mean, traffic investigators. I mean, like Director King said, there was a time in Liberia, I mean, at the Liberian National Police Academy, there is a full course there for traffic investigation. You know, are these trainings still ongoing? What is the logistical capability of the Liberian National Police to do some of these things that we're talking about? So we may recite them here, but at the same time, too, we got to look at the challenges that face law enforcement in our country. So no, we are saying that there are more questions that need to be answered. So none of those reports are conclusive as to actually what transpired. We still need more answers. The reports they've not given us closure on these murders. No, not by any side.
All right, then let's roll in a clip for Newswa.
Yeah.
And then we let our panelists here weigh in.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing the Autopsy report.
Alcohol, and later left for home. He reportedly arrived at his 72nd Pinsville residence at approximately 11 p.m. and proceeded upstairs to his bedroom. Later during the night, his security guard found him lying downstairs unconscious, with blood flowing from his left ear. The escape door from his room upstairs was found open. The distance from the escape door elevation to the ground measures 13.1 feet. The deceased was rushed to the John F. Kennedy Medical Emergency and seen at 2:45 p.m. on October 10, 2020, where he was diagnosed with severe head injuries. According to medical records from the John F. Kennedy Medical Center, he started gasping for air at 3:40 a.m. and following 20 minutes of unsuccessful attempts to resuscitate him, he ceased breathing and was declared clinically dead at 4:00 a.m. on October 10, 2020. Again, consistent with Volume 1, Title 2, Chapter 7 of our Criminal Procedure Law, the coroner of Morrisville County, having declared the death suspicious, the Ministry of Justice ordered that post-mortem examination, autopsy be performed on the remains. Relevant autopsy findings: massive injuries to the head.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with you here as we continue to look deeper into this report as the autopsy, and what we are told is also a police report released on the 25th of November and presented to us, meaning the Liberian people, by our Attorney General, Justice Minister Musa Dean. Dennis, you just listening there. The Attorney General is saying at 11 p.m., Newswa came out along with his friends. They were having a good time. They had some drinks, and he went upstairs. And at some point in the morning hours, they found him lying on the floor, and he was unconscious. And when they looked up, they saw a door that is not meant as an as an entrance to the house, but it's a security door. I understand. They are trying to give us the picture that he fell through that door, and he was rushed to the John F. Kennedy Medical Center, and there he was pronounced dead. Again, another auditor. So, I mean, this police report, I'm calling it a police report because that's what we have. And the autopsy also said that, well, what the police report said is what the autopsy, was able to confirm. So, I mean, does this close this case? I mean, let me start with you, Mr. King. Does this close the case?
No, my question to Mr. King, on top of that is, does that, to me, I see this as like a press report, like a journalist who gave an account. Doesn't look like police report to me. What's your take?
No, not at all. I couldn't give such a report from my office if it had happened under our watch. There's the procedures that would be followed to give any type of information for the investigation would be collaborating or communicating with the pathologist to find out if he could have been pushed. If he could have been pushed, and if so, how far would that push have led him to fall? If a person steps out, for example, of a doorway and go downwards and thinking that there is another a platform, he goes down. Now, the distance is fine. All that measurement stuff is good. But where was he found in relationship to, or should I say the difference between being pushed to that distance? Is it possible for someone just to fall and just hit their head without offering any type of defense coming down? You yourself have fallen from somewhere. What goes out first? Your hand or something goes out to protect it. What other marks was on this person's body? Those are questions that my investigators would be performing or asking the pathologist, and they will be there to look for those type of signs on the particular body. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Falling down and being pushed. There are two different results that take place. So on top of that, was the area upstairs where it is said that he fell from, did they check the doorway? Did they check to find out if there was any struggle in that area or fibers connected to some part of the doorway that may have indicated that he was resisting being pushed? Things like that. Those are all part and parcel of a crime scene investigation. You don't just take because the man fell down, so therefore, no. You have to analyze these things, make test practices. Anyone falling down knowingly from that level, where will he fall? Near the building within a few inches, or if he's being pushed, and that can easily be established by different means. I'm saying I won't mention how, but it can be determined.
So, Mr. Cooney, we also earlier on heard that there was a lady with Mr. Yensua, and that lady was arrested and charged. What did they? I don't hear that portion in the police report.
Yeah. In addition to some of the comments Director King made, to be honest with you, of all of the cases under investigation, I thought this one was, would have relatively been the easier one, because I mean the reportage indicated that there could be witnesses. There could be witnesses that were in the house along with the deceased. And as you indicated, we were told that there was a female companion, that was also with the deceased. Now we don't even know what version of events that the female acquaintance may have narrated. So again, this is another case where the report is made public, and we're still looking for answers to questions that's supposed to be answered, even in an initial report. You see, the newspaper report had it that at the time of the fall, of the alleged fall, there were probably 6 individuals that were in the house. The 3 males that were there had 3 companions. So what information was obtained from these people, especially what information that was obtained from the companion who, according to report, was sharing the same bedroom with the deceased. These are all important questions. Yes, telling us that, he fell and died is all, but again, how did he die? Why? All of these questions still remain unanswered. And then the deceased, the home of the deceased pretty much secure. He lived in a gated house. Who entered the house after they enter? What is the method of gaining entry to the house? What is the method of gaining entry in the gate? Then how do you enter the house? We are told that the security door was left open. Is that security door? That's actually so there are a lot of things we don't know. There are a lot of things we still don't know, and this is where it is important that we hear directly from the investigators for them to tell us where they are in this investigation, and let the Minister of Justice wait a little while after they shall have gathered all of the evidence in these cases, and then the minister can come and inform the public of prosecution and indictments and other things like that.
And Coach King, this is one line that I found in the report very interesting, and I'm wondering whether it really relevant to the investigation. It says the police stated that a medical report at the JFK hospital showed that he started gasping for air at 3:40 a.m. and after 20 minutes of unsuccessful attempts to resuscitate him, he ceased to breathe and was declared clinically dead at 4 a.m. That's why I call it newspaper report. What is the relevance of that to a police report? Tell me, what is that relevance that 20 minutes and at 4 a.m. he died?
Yeah, it's basically what we're saying. I mean, that over description of what transpired at the hospital still is not telling us how he met his untimely death. He has not given him any more information as to how this death occurred, why it occurred. We still don't know the answer to these questions. So you can be all descriptive as you want at the event at the hospital, but where we need more information is what transpired in that compound. What transpired in that compound.
More on your CID had Mr. King, because all these things will say, okay, but then I don't want you to speculate, but what's the motive? What is the police doing here?
Well, as I said, for a crime to be committed, there has to be intent, there has to be motive, and there has to be an opportunity.
Right. I'm talking about the police. What would be their motive be for them to leave out all these unanswered questions?
Oh, for them. This is, I haven't heard from the director of the CID, so therefore I can't even begin to determine what the motive would be on their end. That's why it's important for the director of CID to talk and make his statement to the public so that we can understand what's happening from an investigator's point of view. You see, so I wouldn't know until I hear from him. I haven't heard anything from the designated law enforcement officers. The Minister of Justice is there ceremonially. You see, he doesn't go out to investigate crimes. He's not there when there's a riot that's taking place. It's the police department that's out there. So I would like to hear from the director of the CID for him to explain to me what the issues are and what was the relevance of that information coming out with regards from the, the last medical personnel to see this person alive, because he was alive while he was in the hospital.
All right, folks, in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. Again, we are trying to dig deeper into these two reports. One being described as a police report, which does not come close to what a police report should be, and also the autopsy report. The government is giving us the impression that these people died and there was no foul play, and that the autopsy report confirmed what the police report said as to the circumstances leading to the death of the auditors. But what, in my opinion, remains to be answered is how could 4 persons with connection to auditing work that are going on against a government die in this space of 8 days? 3 of them from one agency of government that was on an audit, and then another from an agency of government that was conducting the audit. How could 4 professionals died in 8 days? And somebody will tell me, say, this is, a coincidence? Well, the police need to answer the question, and I don't think this police statement, I don't want to call it police report, and the autopsy telling us that. Our phone lines are open right now. If you want to call in and ask questions, you are welcome to do so. Our panelists will be glad to answer your question. Then there's one thing that is clear here is that the Justice Minister said that the report, I'm talking about the reports, the police and the autopsy report actually did not conclude the case. And he went on to say that, well, there may have to be further investigation. They have already squandered 2 months, and so they have been waiting. I mean, that what which they read, that it took them almost 3 months. 2 months. Was it intentional at all to kill time, and then the public just forget about this?
Well, I don't know. Most of these reports, there's a pattern to that, but I'll let the the law enforcement officers. That's what I asked for, motive.
Yeah,
But
let me
go ahead, Mr. Cooney.
yeah, for me, I don't want to speak the motive, because sometimes motives are very difficult to define. All of these things, I don't know what role the lifting and analysis of fingerprint is playing in these investigations. Are there fingerprints being lifted somewhere? So all of these things. So for me, I'm wondering here, what is the capacity? What is the current capacity of the Liberian National Police, the Criminal Investigation Division, in actually responding to these crimes? So I don't want to speculate on motive, but I just want to again highlight training and logistical issues that may impact the ability of the police department to come up with to meet these challenges.
Mr. Cooney, let me push you there, because what training is required to say that there were 6 persons in the house? What other logistics do we need to say, what did the 6 persons say about the cause of death?
You need a trained police officer who will ask the right questions.
Okay.
You have somebody who will ask the right questions and make the right kind of analysis. So it goes to training, the removal of a car from the crime scene in an unauthorized and unprofessional manner. It is both training and maybe logistics. Maybe the police don't even have, I don't know whether the police has the capacity to remove cars from crime scene. So these are all questions. I just want to be a little bit open-minded here as we discuss these things. But I think training and logistics are important. Like I talk about fingerprint.
Thank you.
Besides the people that were in the house, were there other people? Were there other people that were there besides those people that we, that being publicly named? Maybe you would put that by lifting the prints.
And let me say the piece of information is important. They were called by the police. The friends who went with Newswa that night, they were called and also live in the house with him, including the female friend of Newswa were called in. They all gave statements. And so the police got information from them. But where we saw that information was just in the newspaper. There was no a press conference from the police saying, hey, these people were with Newswa. They were the last persons that saw him prior to his death. So, but we talked to them, and this is what it's saying. There was not a press conference to that effect, but they were interviewed, had to show the police talk to the media and how the media brought the information out. So yes, the police talked to them, and they gave their statements, and that was it. But whether or not that statement was used for further investigation to get to the bottom of it, the statement that came from Musa D maybe is the conclusion of it.
Mr. Sear? Mr. Sear?
Yeah.
Mr. Sear? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
May I interject? Mm-hmm. You have 2 ways of interviewing. You have interviewing someone who has information to give, mm-hmm. and interviewing someone who does not want to give information.
Okay.
And this is what former Deputy Director Coney was speaking about. The method of asking a question and analyzing the statements that are given to you has to be sifted. It's not just asking, okay, when you were here, when you saw him last, what connection does any one of those people have with any organization that those people were investigating or auditing? And finding out if did they know anyone connected from those organizations. And then this is where it's not just talking. You have to ask certain questions and listen to their answer and find out if it jives, if there's any coordination or in respect to what they said about activities that night. And then why was this young lady arrested? I still don't know why. I mean, what part does she play? Because just because someone was the last person to see someone, you will arrest them? Why? What is the connection? What was the result? I don't know. I didn't see anything else about it. But just asking the questions, you have to ask the questions in a certain way to draw out. You have to ask. If a person has information to give, but he doesn't know how to give it, you have the technique now to draw it out from them. That's the type of training that is necessary. And I want to add something here very quickly about the capacity of the Liberian police. Not too long ago, they sent 20, I think it was 27 or 25 police officers here to the United States in Virginia at the police academy to be trained. What did they go? Where are they now? Talk about capacity. Again, you talk about the equipment to remove vehicles from the scene. They have them there, but did they use it? They have them. They can get any jack truck to drag up the car and take it somewhere for proper investigation. So it's making use of what you have. That is important. But for a police officer to get in the car and drive it, whoo, my goodness. Talking about investigations, I can't see it. If they did do it, it's highly unprofessional, completely unprofessional.
Thank you, Coach King. Let's move to the last clip. If our background have that clip to roll it, but we have something on the screen, and that's the death of the two auditors that were found in the car on Broad Street. According to what we read, the two vehicles were parked there from the morning of October 2 to the morning of the next day.
All right, we're going to roll that clip quickly here.
Relatives and individuals in connection with the incident revealed the following. 1. That on the morning of Thursday, October 1, 2020, the two individuals drove separate vehicles. Gifty A. Lama drove a Kia Sportage Jeep with license plate number A45181, while Albert Peters drove the blue 2001 Toyota Highlander bearing license plate number A512984, in which the two unresponsive bodies of the individuals were found. The two vehicles were later observed parked immediately behind one another on Broad Street, opposite the Sacred Heart Cathedral Church edifice, in front of the building which formerly housed the offices of BVAC. The Kia Sportage Jeep was parked in front of the Toyota Highlander from the early morning hours of October 1, 2020, up to and including the early morning hours of the next day, October 2, 2020. At some point, Gifty A. Lama is said to have disembarked a vehicle and joined Albert Peters in his blue Toyota Highlander Jeep. 2. That on October 1, 2020, beginning at 8:08 up to 8:40 a.m., several calls are registered between Gifty A. Lama and Albert Peters from and to several locations, including the Goodrich, as Barnabas Estate, Bartown, and Waterside, Monrovia. 3. That the call logs generated from data gathered by the Ducal and Masonic craft towers of the two cell phone companies placed the two individuals on Broad Street in the vicinity where their vehicles were discovered from 10:37 a.m. on the morning of October 1, 2020 up to 5:53 a.m. the next morning of October 2, 2020. 4. That those calls placed to the individual's phones in the Broad Street vicinity began at 10:37 a.m. on the morning of October 1, 2020. They reportedly arrived on the scene before 10:37 a.m. as the Monrovia City Corporation parking attendant for the area, confirmed placing tickets on the two vehicles on October 1, 2020 at about 9:00 a.m. and further observed that both vehicles remained in their positions until 7:00 p.m. on October 1, 2020, when he, the parking attendant, left work. 5. That the parking attendant reportedly noticed the vehicle in which the two individuals were sitting overheating. The engine and the air conditioner were on, with the windows covered with steam. He is said to have approached the vehicle at 11:00 a.m. and engaged in an exchange with Albert Peters, at which time he told Mr. Peters that his vehicle was overheating. The parking attendant further indicated that he tried to collect the parking fee from Albert Peters, but Albert Peters told him to close his car door. He observed that Mr. Peters' eyes were red and mucus flowed from his nose. 6. The parking attendant confirmed that after 12 May Day, he observed that the car in which the individuals were sitting was still in the location, but the engine was off. He, the parking attendant, left work at about 7:00 p.m. That the car washer and private security guard from the Progressive Protection Service assigned in the area confirmed seeing the vehicles parked in front of the former BBAC office on Broad Street from the morning of October 1, 2020 until day. The car washer and private security guard left work at the close of the business day. 8. That during the early morning hours of Friday, October 2, 2020, at about 2 a.m., two individuals known to police as petty thieves entered Albert Peters' vehicle and stole one laptop, 4 telephones, a pair of trousers containing $30 US, and some personal belongings. 9. That the two petty thieves confirmed encountering the unresponsive bodies of Albert Peters and Gifted Plummer in the vehicle, but concluded the individuals were intoxicated. 10. Peters and Gifted Plummer, the two petty thieves and individuals to whom they stole the items have been arrested, charged, and are waiting back. A search of the interior and inspection of the undercarriage of the vehicle in which the individuals were sitting.
All right, folks, in cyberspace, we are back with you here. We thought to bring you the reading of the report there by our Justice Minister. And don't forget that let us also show you, after all the narrative you just listened to, the conclusion is that they were positive on carbon monoxide and also hydrocarbon, further confirming what is being reported, that they died of carbon monoxide, that the car, there was smoke piling up in it, and that's what led to their death. That is what we have from our Justice Minister. And so that's why we are having a discussion here from two professionals who have been in the line of work to make sense of it. Mr. King, I know you are paying attention This is depressing because I don't even know what to believe anymore. I'm helpless. Yet, like, okay, this thing is over. What else can we look for in finding answers? The justice minister of the land has spoken. I mean, what can we do?
Well, if the justice minister is an investigator and that is his final decision, then I guess he followed all the professionalism aspects of an investigator. But from what I'm hearing and from what I read and saw, there's a lot of questions here to be answered. How did the thief, I'm just going to skip around a couple of times. Mm-hmm. How can the thief get up the pants from this trousers? Where was the trousers? Where was the trousers? And how did this, what about the condition of the woman who was in the car as well? Was she fully clothed? The information concerning the parking attendant who opens the door or whatever, it must have opened the door because he said close the door. So he opens the door and he sees something suspicious like that. He doesn't have it within him to call authorities to say something is going wrong.
Yeah,
you just close the door back.
They saw mucus coming from his mouth.
Yes.
How do you see mucus coming from his mouth and he could speak?
Quite correct. And well, who knows if it's possible or not if he saw it, but I agree with you. Again, questions here again. What was the condition? I also understand that there was some, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they say there was some gasoline cans?
Yes.
Something?
Yeah. $30.
In the vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What was it doing in the vehicle? I mean, why would someone put gasoline in the vehicle and be there with the windows up? I mean, for what purpose? Was it suicide? Is that what they're trying to imply? That it was suicide? Okay, what's the motive? There has to be an intent. There has to be a motive. And there has to be an opportunity. So what was the motive of this suicide? If it is implied to be a suicide. And then in broad daylight, where are you coming from with this? There's questions here. And then there's another person, you say the private security officer from a Progressive Guard Service. Okay, what was he doing in the area? He was assigned there. Okay, what did he observe? And why did he observe that car? What was particularly important for him to observe that vehicle at that time? These are questions, I guess, and I hope this person was asked this question. And then when he did see something like that, what was his duty? Was it to report something strange to the local law enforcement officer or to his own commander or supervisor on duty?
And why were their phones stolen? Because according to the report, they track their devices and the information gathered that they were at different locations at some point. And at some point, they were able to come together and meet at Broad Street.
I think they said at 10:37, was it 10:37 a.m. they were supposed to be in one location in Broad Street,
location,
right?
Around 10:37 a.m. So
okay, but now the security, wait a minute, the ticket, from what I heard him say, is that the parking lot person, officer, placed a ticket on the car at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I couldn't understand the recording so clearly, but did you hear the statement that at 10:37 a.m. the vehicle was parked at that location?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if the vehicle was parked at that location at 10:37 a.m., then how is it that then what vehicle did the parking lot attendant put the ticket on at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
Am I missing something somewhere?
That is correct.
That is correct, and it's also in the written article. Man said I noticed that.
According to the call log, they were there from 10:37 a.m. on October 1 to 5:53 a.m. the next day.
Mm-hmm.
The ticket was placed there before they arrived.
Yeah.
The ticket was because the parking attendant worked from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., placed the ticket at 9 a.m., saw the mucus in their door. His duty is to collect money, right?
Yeah.
And then he asked the people for his money. They say, close my door. And he obediently closed the door, worked from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. without the ticket being paid.
No, but listen, but that's not the point. The point is, again, I stand to be corrected. I heard them say that the vehicles were there at 10:37 a.m. in the morning.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Now, if that's when it was there at that time in the morning, that's when it arrived. So what vehicle did the man at 9 a.m. put it on? Because 9 a.m. comes before 10:37 a.m. Yes or no?
That is correct.
So then what vehicle did he put this ticket on?
Well,
The
let's look at
ticket-
it this way. Apparently, the day before, maybe the first day.
No, he put the ticket there 9 a.m. when the vehicle was not there. The vehicle arrived 10:37, even before he put. So he put the ticket on it before it came.
Before he arrived, if what we just listened to is correct.
But I may be wrong. So if the first time the vehicle came there, according to the report, again, according to what I'm hearing, was at 10:37. If that is the first location, in other words, the vehicles were there at 10:37, then the man said he put it on at 9 a.m., as you have indicated. Then what did he put it on? He could not put it on an invisible car if it wasn't there. So what did he do? Is he telling the truth, or is he what? Not telling the truth. But how could a ticket be placed on a vehicle that's not there? Number one. Number two, you said both vehicles were seen there. Again, crime scene investigation comes into place with the proper crime scene kits and all that. But okay, what about in the other vehicle? What was the seat adjusted? Was the seat adjusted to the size of the woman or of the lady car structure? Did someone look to see if seat was put forward or pushed backward, which would indicate someone taller than her may have driven the vehicle and parked it there? Or what? These are little things that adds up. And for the man to have his shoes, was the shoes on him when the people came and when the people came in to take his trousers? Because I don't know a man yet that takes his trousers off without taking his shoes. Do you take off your trousers with your shoes on?
No.
I don't.
Of course.
So if the shoes was on a man's foot at the time when the rogues, thieves came in and took the trousers, what did the police say? I mean, those are small things in an investigation that is important to determine if a crime was staged or if actually something took place, like a suicide.
Mr. Cooney, to your understanding, who saw these thieves? Because
just a little correction. According to what they wrote, they said that on October 1, 2020, the deceased arrived. They arrived on the scene before 10:37 a.m. That's what they say.
Right.
And the parking authority placed the two tickets. So, I mean, there's the language issue I'm talking about. They are, according to what they're saying, the vehicle arrived before 10:37 a.m. So again, what make them to be specific to that time? The vehicle arrived before that time, and they say the parking attendant gave the ticket at 9 o'clock. So what led them to zero in on that 10:37?
Because the call logs, they say the call logs placed them at that location at 10:37.
At 10:37.
Yeah, from the call.
But there's but in addition to this, again, We cannot say it. We cannot emphasize the point more. There are a lot of questions here that that we don't have answer for. You know, investigation is like putting the puzzles together.
There's something I want you to come in on, Mr.
There are similarities between investigation and analysis. You got to put all the puzzles together. You got to investigate. You got to get the information to the last detail. So there are a lot of things here that we only have the frontal information, but we don't have the what happened at the back end. Like, for example, we talk about the gasoline and other things that were found in the vehicle. I mean, did we track that gasoline? Did we investigate to know where that gasoline was acquired? Where did they obtain the gasoline from? Between the two of them, who might have bought the gasoline or placed the gasoline in a car? So these are all, you know, questions that we really don't know.
Also, if I may
I want to bring something to your attention that I find very important. Is the petty thieves that they talk about.
2 a.m.
The petty thieves came, they saw this car, and they observed that the car was vulnerable, and so they broke into it. The phones, they said 4 cell phones were taken away, and these were the very phones that were being tracked. And from these phones, we got to know, or they were able to get to know, that they arrived at that particular location at 10:37 a.m. So
it's from the
these
cell
are
phone
the
towers.
phones now. Huh?
From the cell phone towers, not the phone themselves, but from the towers. That's how they.
Towers. Thank you for that correction. And yet, still, the cell phone had, you know, communication in it that could confirm most of this information. But these are the phones that were taken away by the petty thieves. And I did not hear whether when the police made the arrest of the police or petty thieves, they were able to retrieve the phone. And what did they get from this phone? We don't know anything about that yet.
Yeah, let me add to that, Mr. CA.
Please.
They arrested both the petty thieves and those they sold the items to.
Okay.
We are not clear on which items were sold. I'm concerned as 2 a.m. who kept the time as to when the petty thieves arrived, who arrested these petty thieves, and you know that was not clear. I don't know, Mr. Cooney, if you heard about that in the report as to when or who saw these thieves and who arrested them, and who was keeping the time.
No, the report did not say that. We were only informed that there were 2 petty thieves that entered the car and took the
phones and the computer.
Took some belongings. And again, like I said, this case raises a lot of questions. The report raises a lot of questions that we can't find answers to. We need more answers on this case. You talk about the parking attendant that went to go collect the money and encounter the male in the car. And then there is no mention of the female. Where was the female at that time? You know, these are all questions that, and this is why we think this report, initially we all agree that the report is incomplete. I think the police need to go back. I want to believe they're doing that, or they should do that, to try to find the answers to these questions, because the answer to these murders are very important. You know, a lot of Liberians are anxious regarding these crimes, especially so. Again, it becomes even more serious if it affects one class of professionals. Anytime anything is happening to people that are in the same profession just by itself, it should be a reason for concern. If we have a situation where the victim of murders were all pastors, we should be a concern. If they are all drivers, we should be a concern. If they are all teachers, we should be concerned. Just like as we are concerned that because these individuals are all connected to financial transparency institutions. So we need more answers here, and I can only express the hope that we'll get answers on these things, on these matters.
Well, Mr. King, the car was overheating. I don't know how we can prove that after the fact. Will you take this car to the garage and confirm that actually it was overheating? I don't know what they saw, whether they saw smoke. I mean, the parking attendant. So, after, you know, will the vehicle analysis be done to really confirm it was overheating, the carbon monoxide leakage and all that?
Yes. What would happen with proper investigation is that the vehicle itself, after all the necessary evidence would have been collected, a mechanic, authorized proper mechanic, would come in to investigate the mechanical aspect, safety aspect of the vehicle. And it can be done. I don't want people to say, oh, we're in Liberia and we don't have this and that. No, a mechanic is a mechanic. And they have qualified mechanic that takes care of vehicles in Liberia. You get a qualified mechanic, you bring him into the location, or you carry the vehicle there under special as evidence and therefore protected, and let him examine the vehicle to find out if there's any leakages at all, if the vehicle did overheat, so that he gives his professional opinion as to what could happen if a vehicle is parked with the engine running and the air conditioner on, and a gasoline would appear in the back of the car, filled at a certain capacity. What would happen, and what could happen under those conditions?
And Mr. King, let me interrupt you here. The thing is that when this parking attendant approached them and notified them that this car is overheating, they were alive at that time. If you read the report, the fact that he notified them, we are now aware that they got the information that the car was overheating, suggesting also that carbon monoxide was, pouring up into the car. So they had to be able to feel it.
Exactly.
And okay, let's assume, maybe I shouldn't say that maybe the smoke was causing this man to have this mucus that this attendant saw. And this guy, while the mucus were coming from his mouth, were able to respond to him. So they knew that they were in danger. Did they not have the ability to open the door, to get out, saying there was smoke piling up in this car and save themselves from this or killing smoke? But that did not happen. So, I mean, did people really intend to commit suicide even as they felt the pain? I don't want to believe so.
Whether it was a suicide, this is where the motives come in. What is the motive of these two people committing suicide? Or is it murder-suicide? And if so, what was the connection? What information did they have? And where's the laptop? What has become of the content of the laptop?
Fine. And
what has become of the content?
What's the relationship between them?
And why would they want to kill themselves in the first place? When we talk about Gifty, my understanding that Gifty have two young children, a boy and a girl. I think one is 5 years old. Why would she want to kill herself? They were conducting the audit. Why would they want to kill themselves for an audit that they are performing, something they have been doing for some time? They are doing their just work. They want to kill themselves for doing their just work.
And Mr. Coney, let me bring you in about the location. We're talking about Broad Street and Sacred Heart Cathedral. I don't know if they were Catholic, because we want to still see what this was on a Thursday. They should be at work. What they are saying, what they are telling us is the parking attendant from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. saw the vehicle were there. It means this day they were not going to work. We also said that they were reported missing. I don't know, this was from Thursday to Friday morning. So at what point, these two people that are supposed to appear to be at work, they are on Broad Street. The car is parked there from 10:37 a.m. on Thursday to 5:53 a.m. on Friday. What does Broad Street, being on Broad Street for this long, bring to your mind?
Well, people should be walking up and down that area, wouldn't it?
Definitely.
And people walking up and down both streets, people selling and things on both streets. Nobody saw the car.
Only attendant saw it overheating. And when the attendant opened the door and the mucus was coming, And this attendant had to collect his parking fee. He did not. He saw the mucus. He did not still raise any alarm. And I believe there was some people there. So, Mr. Cooney, let's discuss Broad Street. Let's discuss the vicinity.
Well, I mean, as we all know from Liberia, Broad Street is one of the most traveled, one of the most active street in the city. You know, people move up and down on Broad Street, but more so besides the nature of Broad Street. Again, this is where the investigation. These, according to the information, these two individuals that work together. What could have been the reason why they would be on Broad Street? What could take them to Broad Street? Why were they? You know, I mean, these are all important questions we still don't know. You know, these call log. They monitor the call log from Thursday to Friday, and these people, these two individuals, are in contact with one another. I'm thinking, but what, you know, why we carry them to Broad Street? Do they have any professional responsibility on Broad Street? And I also want to know the professional relationship between the two people. Are they working on a joint project? You know, so these are all questions that, unfortunately, we don't know the answer to. And
Mr. Cooney, what does it tell us when we don't know the answer?
That means law enforcement has not done the work the way it's supposed to be done. And that law enforcement need to do more. The police department need to do more.
Do you sense a cover up when this kind of very sloppy report or incomplete, inconsistent?
No, you see, I don't want to speculate that far. Again, okay. I will go I will reach to the issue of training. Even though, I mean, Director King talked about the training. Yes, you know, Director, you know, that means we can get a training. The application of the training is another thing. We can get all of the training in leadership, but exercising actual leadership is another thing. So, I mean, when we talk about training, we talk about it in its totality, not just the person sitting there in a classroom and being taught, but the utilization of that training. So, I mean, these are things I can put my hand on because, you see, I don't want to make an outlandish charge that I may not have or that I do not have enough information to justify.
Thank you.
But if you look at all of the pattern, police officer driving, removing a car from the crime scene, it tells me there is a training problem. There is a leadership problem.
Director Cooney.
Yeah.
Is it possible now when we investigate in cases, we look at all possibilities. Everybody is a suspect. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The first possibility is they drove themselves there and they committed murder-suicide. One.
I agree.
Second point, someone killed them already and moved them there and put them there and stayed in the situation. That's another possibility. Let's call it as it is, man. This is what we do as investigators. You think about all possibilities and then you begin to eliminate. So the situation here now is, could they have been murdered somewhere else? And the whole thing staged with the calling and all that. Why would they have 4 cell phones? Things like that, right? So there's a possibility. Murder, suicide, number one, or murder somewhere else and brought to the scene. One by one, taken out of one car, put into another car, trousers taken off to make it appear as though they were having some sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm. Those are all
an sensible person will come on Broad Street to have a sexual relationship. Prominent people like that. And then the third thing is they are all auditors. And the fourth thing is they're investigating things that are very important and very critical. Number 5, who would want something to be revealed to the public? So, opportunity, intent, and motive. Okay? Were those 2 people involved in a relationship before? Was anyone suspected them of any relationship before? Are we sure that they got a call from one person to another? I mean, who saw them during the daytime? When did they leave?
Those are all the questions.
So, but those two possibilities, either they went murder, suicide, or murdered somewhere else and brought in. Now let's call a spade a spade. We're talking professionally here because people from around the world may be listening. And they're not going to make me look like a fool by agreeing with people who haven't done professional work. That's the essence here. The other aspect about the Liberian society is this. You've had four directors of police or inspector general of police who should know better in staffing and organizing the police department for the public safety. And I will repeat again, and I want people to hear me. The last time I heard was that France, I think it was France, had donated a crime scene laboratory to the police. If I'm not mistaken, it was Inspector Chris Massaquet. I may be wrong and I stand to be corrected, but it was one of those directors. Where's the crime scene laboratory? Now, I worked in a mobile crime scene laboratory before. Everything is complete. Where is the crime scene laboratory? Tell me. Where's all the money to spend on training? Where are the people now? No one talks about it because no one understands professional police work. And until you get a person who understands professional police work, the police force in Liberia is not going to be professional. It's not going to be professional. I don't care who you put there. If they don't understand their role as a law enforcement officer to respect the constitutional right and protect the citizens of the country, instead of running behind everything else, instead of doing police work, public safety. If they don't understand that, no administration is going to straighten up that police force unless they decide what they want. You can't have your citizen dying, being killed and murdered by criminals, and everyone wants to tip light toll on it. And then you say, they have the opportunity. United States give them money to get crime laboratory. They can get a mobile crime laboratory from Searchy Fingerprint Laboratory. I work with them and train. I train in a crime laboratory.
And Mr. King,
why is it that people do not ask for these things?
Mr. King, I don't intend to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Mr. King, hold on, Mr. Kone. This is important as well.
Yeah.
Because we were told that the government had asked the U.S. government to help with this investigation. Let me take you back. With the 16 billion, when the U.S. government, when the Liberian government had asked the U.S. government to intervene, we saw those people intervening in the country conducting a report or an investigation. In this case, we were told that the Liberian government has asked the U.S. government. Now we have report out. We didn't see the U.S. contribution nowhere whatsoever. Somebody is playing game here. Somebody is hiding something here. Then we have an audit report that came from the IAA that it was leaked first. The government would not confirm it. And later on it came out. And that report is saying about $38 million is in question. They can't trace it. And it has to do something with what you call the stimulus package. The rice distribution is in limbo. And now here are auditors dying one by one. Somebody is hiding something. And I'm bold to say it's the Liberian government that is hiding something because some individuals within that government have played a role in the killing of this individual. And I say it, I don't have any regret for saying it, because this couldn't be any clearer. Where are the cell phones that the petties or thieves stole and they arrested them? Let's search those cell phones and see whether we can find information. So Mr. King could not have nailed it better. Maybe they killed themselves or they were killed by some people who brought them right there to stage A and make it look like they killed themselves or somebody killed them right there. I can't take this. It is not one person, it's not two persons. We're talking about 4 persons here died here. And then we're talking about no police officer, they say he shot himself. These things are not completely ordinary. No, they are out of the ordinary and they are very suspicious. The autopsy report did not solve anything. It just got us into more questions and we can't find the answer. And we'll never find the answers. This is Liberia. We'll not find the answers.
I think you and Director King providing a summary of the totality of our discussion here tonight. I don't think there is any disagreement among us here on the views that have been expressed. Like I said, these murders are concerning to the Liberian people. And this is why I said that the police had a double responsibility. In addition to solving these crimes, they also have to do it in a way to assure the Liberian people that there is no political motivation to these crimes. That's the double responsibility they face. And we all agree that all of the reports so far on the 4 murders those reports are not sufficient. More need to be done. Whether it is somebody covering up, whether it is deficit in training, whether it's deficit in logistics, the Liberian people, whatever way it goes, the Liberian people deserve an answer to these things. And I don't think the government stand to benefit anything from these murders going unsolved because they reflect on government. It is the government responsibility to protect the citizens. So I want to believe we all saying the same thing, maybe saying it differently, but I don't see any disagreement here.
Yeah, the only disagreement, Mr. Coney, is the issue of logistics. I think the issue of logistics and training that you emphasized earlier is a very minute piece. What I think the government is doing here is the murders may not be something that the government may not be something carried out by people under the directive of the government. But it is the government responsibility to protect every life and property in the country. So even though if it is not you, but still you are responsible to protect people from criminals. And it's like what the government is saying to me is like, okay, since it is not us, we just want to clear our side that we are not responsible. Even though these are gruesome murders, but as long as we are not responsible, that's fine.
No, let me disagree with you. Let me push back on that.
Yeah.
Let me push back. There is no way the government can say that there is nothing the government can do to clear itself.
I look at the body language of the justice minister.
Yeah, okay, but I'm giving you, there is no way that the government can excuse itself from the death of Liberians in Liberia. There is no way to do that. There is no way to do that. And the measure of training is the fact that we all agreed to earlier. We all are analyzing these events from outside. So in doing so, we have to be open. We have to open our minds to all of the possibilities.
Yeah.
We have to open for example, I cannot understand why a police officer will jump in a car to remove the car from the crime scene. Is it a deliberate act to destroy evidence or is it a lack of training? So we are opening ourselves to all the possible things that could happen because we are analyzing from outside.
And Mr. Kuni, first of all, the only people that are arrested in the entire crime are people called petty thieves. Isn't that?
It is interesting. It is interesting. Again, it goes to what everyone is saying here. The answers are very short for these kind of gruesome murders. The answers are very short. We need more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Coney and Mr. King. This is one of the interviews that I conduct, and I get angry, even though most of you don't see it. But this is devastating. All of us here in the United States, our dream is to learn here and go back home and contribute. So if professional people are getting killed, murdered under these gruesome acts, and people are like playing game with it, there is a petit thief, he stole the man trousers, somebody is having sex on Broad Street for an entire day, 10:37 in the morning till 5 the next day. why would anybody, a justice minister, come in the open and tell us that as if we are stupid? This needs to stop. It's disgusting, it's despicable, and the government must be held accountable. Mr. C, let's end this.
All right, folks in cyberspace, I think you can see the frustration coming from us here, and you will agree with us that we are right to be frustrated in this manner. The deaths of these individuals, we're not getting the answers, and I'm going to say we're never going to get the answers. The people that are supposed to give us the answers are not showing any seriousness, and I'm getting political right now. While we have these deaths on our hand, we have a president who dances all the time. He goes camping, he dances. I mean, how would I be dancing when senior officials of my government are dying in numbers? And he said, well, he's living. Anyway, let me leave that alone. We have a song here that says we are all Liberians. And definitely we are.
And I'm not going to join you in the political analysis.
Yeah.
We have a law enforcement.
Myself, I'm leaving the political analysis because I'm frustrated. Yeah, I don't know where to start and where to end. So, folks, we will leave you with this song. It's called We Are All Liberians. Despite these deaths, these suspicious deaths, these deaths that tell us that somebody did something wrong, and yet we can't find the answers from those who are supposed to give us the answers. Unfortunately, we are all Liberians. Maybe I shouldn't use that word unfortunately, but we are Liberians. Listen to that song and tell Focus on Liberia. Thank you tomorrow. Mr. King, we can't tell you enough for always coming to our invitation and providing your expert understanding on these difficult subjects. Mr. Cooney as well, we want to say thank you. And that will do it for us. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
We are Liberians.